companies. Tell us your experiences and differences between the both, and especially for other lawyers considering both options. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really topical subject, isn't it? I started my career at Arnold Block Leibler, and I worked for 7 years in private practice in their M&A team and with a bit of banking and finance as well. Look, I often get asked by younger lawyers or more junior lawyers who are considering staying or leaving private practice what my views are. I don't know, I might be a bit different. I think that there's something really strong about developing a good grounding as a lawyer in private practice. When people tell me that they're not sure about staying or leaving, I generally tend to encourage people to stay in private practice, especially if you've got sophisticated and high quality work. I've got no doubt that's the best training you can get as a lawyer. So for those people out there who aren't sure, I tend to suggest that they give it a bit more time. But look, there are lots of people who, can't stand billable hours and who want a more commercial, high-level experience of working across a business and with a number of stakeholders. And for those people, I think Inhouse is a fantastic opportunity to leverage your legal skills, but also have a bit of that commercial exposure.
How long would you say to stay into private practice before making that jump to Inhouse?
Yeah, look, I think as a rule of thumb, people tend to say, you're best placed to get a relatively senior in-house role if you say a senior associate. And I think certainly from my experience, you're very green in your first year or two as a private practice lawyer. I mean, you don't really know that much. And if you've got rotations, as a number of firms do, it's hard to specialise. So I would say as a minimum, it's hard to make up your mind until you're 3 or 4 years in. But by the same token, touching back on what I said before, it's really important to enjoy coming to work every day, to have good interaction with staff, to have good interaction with colleagues. And I think that's a factor. And if you're not getting that in private practice, and I think firms are getting better at dealing with staff and their needs, but if you're not getting that, then that might be an opportunity to look elsewhere. But that being said, I think a lot of people tend to look to go straight from private practice into in-house if they're not happy in private practice. I think it's also an option to consider other firms that might be, better suited to what it is that you're trying to get professionally. Now,
we speak to so many lawyers, and there's this belief that going into in-house is going to be a little bit easier. It's going to be 9 to 5. It's less stressful. Would you say that's the case, or do you come from a different point of view?
Yeah, I would say that that's the case. I think that the work-life balance for an in-house lawyer generally is better. As a service provider in private practice, let's be honest, you're usually a slave to the client. If the client wants to meet or chat at a particular time or has a particular deadline, it's your responsibility to meet that. Certainly, I've worked very hard over periods of my life in-house, and on weekends and on holidays and at all hours of the night. But by the same token, I've got a lot more flexibility to manage my time. And that's really important. And I think now that I've got some young kids, I really value being able to go to creche concerts and do the occasional pick up or drop off and be able to work my time accordingly. So I think it is a factor. I think there are a few in-house lawyers who are a bit antsy about the perception that we don't work as hard, or that our hours are very flexible. And certainly I know a lot of general counsel who work as hard as partners of law firms. But one of the advantages of being in-house, certainly that I've found, is that you've got a lot more destiny to manage your time as you wish.